What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, I wanted to drop a quick market update here as Bitcoin is starting to get a continuation to the downside. Now, as you guys know, I was traveling for the holidays. I am now back in the studio behind the computer, staring at the charts 24/7. Once again, it feels good to be back here, but I wanted to drop this quick market update as we have seen that continuation down. I want to talk about the key levels we looked at in our last market update as we were looking at some bearish signs on the chart, as well as those key levels, and we are potentially about to approach those levels right now. So I wanted to let you guys know what I'm thinking is going to come next here on Bitcoin as we see this continuation down. We'll talk about those key levels. We'll show that short trade that I am still holding a portion of, which is now much further in profit than it was in our last update. So I'm just going to give you a general update here. Should you be scared? Are we headed down to that $85,000 to $80,000 level that we've been looking at? Or can we hold this support? I'm going to break it all down right now. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into the charts. Let's get into it. So guys, here we are on the Bitcoin chart, and as you can see here, Bitcoin continuing to tumble to the downside here, getting as low as about $91,295. Now, as you guys know, in that last market update, we were talking about the push into our key level of resistance here, and in the premium Discord, we were looking for short positions up here in this key zone of resistance, where we had a golden pocket 786 Fibonacci retracement sitting between about 100,800 and 98,896. And you know, once we get rejected back into that volume profile, rejecting that value area high, this is oftentimes where we're looking for short positions, guys. Nothing new here. And as we did get those bearish confirmations up here, we did wind up getting accepted back into the range, giving us a clear path on where Bitcoin would very likely go next. After we get rejected below that value area high, we were simply going to be looking for price to come back down to that POC, which was sitting at about $98,135. And then once we lost that level, we were looking for that move back down to the value area low, which we did wind up getting. But in that previous update, guys, we were looking at if this bearish momentum was going to continue and we were going to lose this local profile. Where is that next key level of support? And as we were looking at, you know, that key level was sitting down here at about $90,450. And here is that position, guys, entered here at about $106,441. Now, as I mentioned, I was not actively trading last week, so I did not take that local short, but I am still holding my short here, entered a while ago, up at about $106,000. And I have locked in a little bit more profit here, up over $6,000 altogether here, $4,800 unrealized. I may take even more profit off the table here in just a little while, but have about $1,600 locked in here over on Femex. And I am going to continue to hold a portion of this short over on Femex. I may take a little bit more profit off the table here in just a little while, but this is starting to play out pretty nicely. Now, we are approaching those key levels of support here. As you can see, I'm going to pull up this new range here. This is a local, smaller volume profile that we've been looking at. We actually were trading this in the premium Discord, just looking for longs below the lows, looking for that to ride back up to the value area high, shorts at the highs, back down to the low, deviation below the low. Everybody's getting scared. We know this is an undervalued asset. This is where we're looking for bounces back into the range and then simply back up to the value area high for that short setup last week that we were looking at in the premium before getting that return back down to the low, and we are now losing this local volume profile. So right now I am looking at a larger range, which is, simply put, guys, the same volume profile we were looking at a while ago before the holiday week. To be honest with you guys, we did get some nice volatility here, but in the grand scheme of things, Bitcoin kind of was just bing-bonging sideways here, and we are now just at the bottom of this range once again. We are now losing this daily naked point of control at about 92,190. So if we are unable to reclaim this level, guys, the key levels to the downside remain exactly the same. The next major zone of support is going to be sitting here at the value area low. Remember, guys, you want to keep things simple here when it comes to your trading. We get below that value area low, we look for that move back down to the POC, and as long as we remain below it, we are going to be looking for that value area low to potentially be the next stop for Bitcoin, and that has been riding down beautifully. So if we're unable to reclaim this daily naked point of control at 92,190, I will be looking at that next key level sitting down here between the value area low and the daily horizontal. Value area low coming in here at about $90,400, and that daily is sitting at about $89,900. So if we are able to work our way down there, I will be looking for long positions. To be honest, this is a big zone of support, so if I did see confirmations before we got down to this level, I may look for some longs. However, this is going to remain the next big key level of support, because as you guys know, when we're looking at these Fibonacci retracements, if you're unable to hold that golden pocket and you lose it, the next likely place for price to go is going to be that 786 Fibonacci retracement. And in the grand scheme of this volume profile, there is some confluence hands pointing down to that $90,400 zone. Now, if we pull up Market Cipher B here, guys, one of the things that made us look for that drop to the downside was the fact that we had this 16-hour red dot printing. You can see it right here in all of its glory. This is kind of where we were saying, hey guys, we got the drop to the downside locally within the context of our local volume profile. However, if that 16-hour red dot is going to confirm and give us a bigger drop to the downside, we're simply going to hide that range and pull up that larger volume profile to find that next key zone of support. And obviously, we have gotten that drop down, and this daily naked point of control is going to be absolutely key. The inability to reclaim this level is going to be more bearish in my opinion, looking down towards that $90,400 zone. Now, unfortunately, we are not really forming any kind of significant bullish divergences down here on the higher time frames. You can see we have lower lows on our price action, but we are not getting higher lows on our momentum waves, at least not here on the higher time frames like the 16-hour or even the daily time frame. We only have one momentum wave here, so obviously we can't have a bullish divergence. But if we are going to either reclaim this daily naked point of control for a ride back up, or if we're going to push down to $90,400, the daily green dot may be the next thing to give us some kind of a significant retracement back to the upside. So right now, guys, very simply put, I am holding that short from $106,000. If we could come down here, this would be a big take profit level for me, as this is a very key level of support, and I will just be looking at that as a general volume profile trade. This would very likely scare a lot of people, but as everybody gets overly bearish at the support levels, we are going to be looking for those long positions. Even if we deviate slightly below that value area low, we know that in the grand scheme of things, guys, this is just a sideways range. When you deviate above the volume profile, you can look at this as an overvalued asset, and when you deviate below, you can look at this as an undervalued asset for another rotation of value back to that value area high. So just as far as context goes, guys, this larger volume profile is still in play here. And again, if we're not going to see 90,400, the key level to reclaim is going to be this daily naked point of control at $92,190. So I am being patient, holding that swing short position from 106K, just simply waiting for the next key levels to get hit with bullish confirmations to take another trade. And you can see here, if we work our way up to the higher time frames here, guys, you can see that the VWAP on the 2-day has been below the zero line for quite some time. Now, this is going to take some time to develop here. These higher time frames do take some time to play out, but these are going to be the time frames that I'm looking at for the next big move to the upside. And when you look at the market in terms of the rotation of the volume profiles, it gives you some nice context and some kind of peace of mind. So when you see these drops to the downside, you're not completely panicking. Oh my God, everything's going to zero. Where are we going next? Is it all over? Is the bull market over? Very simply put, guys, this drop to the downside, I know this feels absolutely brutal, but as far as the charts go, this is nothing really that crazy has happened. As you know, it is not impossible to see some kind of consolidation in a bull market or even some significant dips. Now, speaking of significant dips, I have to cover those lower levels of support. Although I wouldn't love to see these levels come in, they are definitely going to be on the table, and those key levels are going to be sitting at about $80,000, between about $80,000 and $82,000, where we have this macro golden pocket and our next daily naked point of control. Now, this zone does start at about $82,698 all the way down to that daily naked point of control, sitting at almost $80,000 even. Now, again, I would not like this to happen. However, this is definitely in the cards, and $80,000 Bitcoin is not completely out of the question here. However, obviously, we do have that local support. We would have to lose this volume profile, get no bullish confirmations down here. But if we do start losing this volume profile, guys, obviously, we do have this backup support sitting at about $87,347. But once we start losing that daily level, I will be looking down towards about $80,000 for Bitcoin. And if we can't get back above that daily, this is definitely going to be the next significant level of support, sitting between $82,000 and about $80,000 even. And these levels, guys, are the same supports that we were looking at on the live stream a couple of weeks ago. So this isn't really anything new, but I just want to remind you guys of those lower levels of support so you don't freak out if we see those bigger drops down. It is definitely possible to see these prices come in, and I will not be freaking out, calling for the bear market. I will definitely be looking for swing long positions down here. And if we wind up losing these two daily naked points of controls / golden pocket, I will be looking simply down to the 786, where we also have a daily naked point of control. And again, I would not really like to see this happen, but if we were to lose this zone of support, I will be looking down, first off, down to that $82,000 to $80,000 level. We start losing that, I will be looking down to the 786 daily naked point of control, which is sitting between about $76,535 and $74,935. Now, this does approach our CME gap that we have sitting down there as well. Now, this is going to be really the key level, guys. As we've been talking about on the live streams, this is kind of that last level of support. This is really a super, super important level because if we wind up losing the 786 daily naked point of control, this is where we talk about potentially coming in and testing the highs of our consolidation range that we were in for about 7 months here. And, you know, sometimes price, when it breaks out and gets a big move to the upside, it's not impossible to come down and retest the scene of the crime, right? Just meaning that area of where we got that original breakout from. Now, again, I would really not like to see this happen. This would be a very, very difficult situation to trade because although you're approaching key support, this is a very dangerous area to play with because if we get accepted back into this range, it would call for much more downside on Bitcoin, in my own personal opinion, because we do have this old volume profile that we were looking at for quite some time here between about $74,000 and about $50,000. Nobody wants to see those prices again, but the nice thing is that we do have plenty of support not only in this local volume profile, but also down here with the golden pocket confluence with those daily naked points of controls, and then that 786 with the daily naked point of control as well. These are the biggest levels on the chart. It would be very, very scary to come down there. It would for sure shake a ton of people out of the market, and you guys know when the masses start to get shaken out of the market, oftentimes the big institutions like to buy up that cheap Bitcoin and then send it back to the upside. So this is something we want to be prepared for, but those are the key levels that we're looking at. I'm not necessarily calling for an $80,000 Bitcoin, but I just want to keep it on the radar for you guys because if we lose these ranges, more specifically the daily horizontal level at about 87,347, these are just simply the next key levels of support down below. Now, before I let you guys go, I do want to take a look over here on Ethereum, as Ethereum obviously is pretty much following suit with Bitcoin, and I wanted to talk about the volume profile I'm watching for ETH, and this is the power of the volume profiles, guys. Very simply put, just like we looked at on Ethereum, when we were ranging down here in our lower value area, we were looking for that breakout to come back in, and when price gets imbalanced out of a volume profile, guys, we simply look for price to gravitate towards the previous area of value, which was sitting up here between about 3,000 and 37.23. What happens? We get that rip up, price gravitates back into this volume profile, we flip the value area low to support, we come on up, we test that POC, which is sitting right here at about $3,500, and then once we got above that, we looked for the move up into the value area high, we deviated above that level. This is what we look at as an overvalued asset. Before getting a drop back down into the range, we got accepted back below that value area high, and this is where you look for price to come back down to the POC, which we obviously got a drop down into, and then we came back up, bearishly retested it here. Let me go ahead and drop a line here on that POC. We got a drop down below that POC. We bearishly retested it, and as long as we remain below this POC, guys, there is a potential doorway open to these lower targets sitting near the value area low. I'm going to take this tapped weekly naked point of control off the chart for a minute here. But if we do wind up rejecting this POC and not being able to get back above it, the next likely stop for Ethereum could potentially be sitting down here at that value area low, sitting at about $3,000, guys. This is a huge level of support for Ethereum. If we get down there, not only do we have the value area low, but we also have a bunch of confluence down here. We have a daily and a weekly horizontal level, as well as a golden pocket retracement. You can see this golden pocket is pulled from the low before we impulsed out of that lower range, all the way up to the high here at about $4,100 or $4,085. So if we do come down there, we do have some nice confluence sitting in this zone here between that golden pocket value area low and daily and weekly level, sitting between about 3,079 all the way down to about 2,966. So if we are unable to get back above this POC, guys, and as long as we remain below this, that doorway to this value area low does remain valid. And if we are able to make it down there, this would be an area where I would be interested in some bigger swing longs on Ethereum. Even if we deviate below, we have some daily naked points of controls down here. If we deviate, get back into the range, we could potentially look for longs back up to the value area high with confirmations, only if we get those confirmations. Now, not only would a drop down here be a situation where we have ETH undervalued in the context of this larger volume profile, but it would also, very similar to Bitcoin, be in a situation where it is getting pretty close to retesting the highs of that previous range we were in. So we do have a lot of support down here, and again, I would be interested in bigger swing long positions if if we did wind up getting that bigger move down. And once again, those levels are sitting between about 3,079 and 2,966. So hopefully we don't have to see the continued blood, but if we do, that's the key level to watch. I don't want the Mafia to be out there scared, like, oh my God, is everything going to zero? I know a lot of people came into the market as crypto was recently pumping, obviously. I know this could be a very scary situation, but I am just looking at things in terms of the volume profiles because we make money whether price is going up or down, and these ranges are absolutely undefeated for the day trades and even the shorter term swing trades. So I am just going to continue to look at the markets in this context. If you are scared out there, guys, take a deep breath and understand the levels you have underneath you. And once you're able to understand the charts like we do here on this channel, all these drops to the downside start to get less scary, and you start to look at these drops as more of an opportunity to either look to buy the dip or even potentially look for those leveraged long positions like we do all the time here. And I really wouldn't be getting worried about Ethereum until we start to get accepted back into this lower volume profile, which if I go ahead and pull it here, you can see that value area high is getting very close to the 786 Fibonacci retracement, which is that same fib pull that we're looking at right here with that golden pocket. So if we came on down here, right, maybe we deviate below, maybe we get an SFP. If we can't get any confirmations down here for a return back into the range, I will simply look to get accepted out of this volume profile. If we lose these daily naked points of controls, we have that 786 sitting down here, pretty confluent with that daily naked point of control sitting right here. This would be another super, and in my opinion, the most important level for Ethereum here if we saw that scarier drop to the downside, sitting between about 2,800 to 2,694. Again, hopefully we don't have to see that happen, but if we did get down there, just understand this is a very key level of support, not only making it a big area of interest for longs, but also a very important level that we want to hold, because if we don't hold this level, guys, it is very, very possible to potentially get accepted back into this lower volume profile where we will just simply look for price to get accepted into the range, go back down to the POC, and then get a move back down to the low. Now, hopefully we don't have to see $2,400 come in, but that's just how I'm going to be looking at the charts. When I look at the charts, guys, I find those key levels and I look at the context of the market and find those high probability areas where we know there is a very good chance of a reaction and we could capitalize on either short-term day trades or even buy the dip scenarios. But those are for sure going to be the key levels I am watching on Ethereum. So with all that being said, guys, those are all the levels that I'm looking at and kind of how I'm handling the charts right now. I'm really happy I was able to hold that short from about $106,000 and get that short set up in the premium Discord on Christmas Eve. For anyone who didn't get a short from above that macro value area on Bitcoin, take a deep breath. If you're scared, guys, just understand we have support below and you don't want those emotions to creep in when you get those big drops to the downside. Instead, find those key levels and look at those drops as opportunities. And if we do wind up getting a bounce, guys, I'll update you with some key levels that we can look at for some rejections back to the downside. If we're going to see that drop down to 80K, very likely we will have another opportunity to find some short positions. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss our next update. So hopefully that helps you guys out. And with all that being said, that's all the time I got for this video. See you in the next one. Frankie Campbell's out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, we winning by a landslide.